generation, the RPWD generation, one that has grown, not was born, but grown after the RPWD Act. I am starting the presentation. I know recordings are not getting that much of an interest, but still I'm starting with that right now. I don't have my next speakers, Shadab and Ajay. Is Shadab here? Shadab Hussain? Is Ajay Amar here? Sorry, Ajay Arora here? No. Okay. So I'll start with Fayaz and I'll start the recording, okay? And if anybody has questions for Rahul, Amar and Turab, please just remember it and we'll get Rajesh Asudani to answer it later. Okay? Yeah. Fayaz. Fayaz? Yeah, there's a mic.
So hi everyone. You can also join with me. I'm just going to sing a song. आशा है कोई लम्हा हो जो खास खास कोई दरिया हो जो पास पास आशा है कोई लम्हा हो जो खास खास कोई दरिया हो जो पास पास आशा है दीवारों को चीर के मंजिलों को छीनने आशाएं मिले दिल की मंजिलें हंसे दिल की अब मुश्किल नहीं कुछ भी हो उड़ जाए लेके खुशी ले चल संग तुझको बाहर जन्नत से मुलाकात हो पूरी हो तेरी हर दुआ आशाएं मिले दिल की मंजिलें हंसे दिल की अब मुश्किल नहीं कुछ भी Thank you. This was dedicated to everyone.
Not be there in person, given that today happens to be a weekday and traveling to Goa wasn't really possible. But I'm sure this will be a great opportunity for us to brainstorm together on what we can do to address some of the practical challenges that we face on an everyday basis as persons with disabilities through the RPWD Act and sort of strategic and well thought out advocacy. I'm also joined by Amar, Jain and Turab Chimthanawala. I'll just invite them to introduce themselves briefly. Amar.
Thank you, Rahul and Matt. It's great to be here virtually with you all. Access India has certainly played a key role in our lives and certainly an honor to be here. I'm a corporate lawyer with over 8 years experience and a certified professional on web accessibility. Of course, we continue to do a lot of work on disability awareness, which I think Access India family is well aware of, so we don't need to get into details there. Turab, over to you.
Hello everyone, good evening. Nice to be here. I am Turab Chimthanawala and yeah, it is great to be here. Access India. I think Access India is one of the key reasons why I am where I am. It's been 8 years since I have been on the list and I have learned a lot and very happy to see that there is a convention, but unfortunately because of work I couldn't be there. As for introduction, I am a company secretary by profession and also done my masters in law. I am working with a government regulator as an officer. And also, as you all know, the work we do on accessibility and other disability-based rights that Access India community knows. I don't know.
Right.
Explain.
Right. So, Amar and Turab, what I propose to do in the 20 minutes that have been allocated to us is to divide our interaction, and it will be an interaction rather than a speech, into 3 main parts. So first we'll just lay out some of the problems that people face, big picture problems with respect to disability rights not being realized. Then we'll talk about the solutions, and then thirdly we'll talk about what people in this room the average disabled person can do towards realizing their rights and thereby realizing the aspirations of the RPD Act, which is the topic that has been given to us. So in terms of the problems, Amar, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about the employment-related issues that people with disabilities face, big picture.
Sure, Rahul. I think if from an employment perspective, one problem that people face is that some people don't even get the opportunity of either applying for a job or even after sitting for an interview to get cleared basis their disability. They get rejected on the ground of disability. Second problem, some people do get jobs but they don't get the right to work or the right roles that they can kind of discharge their duties efficiently. Third problem related to this is that internal workplace solutions, be it digital or infrastructural, are themselves inaccessible. And fourth problem, which kind of arises out of all of these, is that the career growth of people with disabilities, in terms of their promotions, in terms of their retention and remuneration, etc., gets affected because of all of this. So that's a big picture problem that I think we should focus on.
Turab, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, also in government jobs, people face challenges related to promotions and all. Often they are not considered for promotions, or also if many times people with physical disabilities may have problem of, they may be used to their work location, but they will be transferred, like there are various jobs which are transferable, and that may cause them.
Right. And then there's also the issue of reservation and promotion, which is quite a hot button issue. And it has been for a number of years now in terms of, this is something that people with disabilities have advocated for, and now we do have provisions on that which we shall also cover. So that's with respect to employment. Now let's talk a little bit about banking and insurance, and then we will talk about accessibility. So in banking and insurance, Amar, tell us.
So again, the banking and insurance is a subset of what we call as public facilities and services, right? That's a broader definition that the Act has, which covers banking, insurance, finance, telecom, roadways, transport, communication, and so many others. But the basic problem being, again, there are a couple of problems here. One is with regard to access to these services in itself. Which is to say that you are able to avail the particular services. So discrimination on the ground of disability, that's one problem. Secondly, accessibility of these services. Accessibility and usability are kind of synonymously, but the basic problem being that even if you want to access financial services or a banking services, or let's say if you want to pay insurance being a person with disability, or health insurance or any other insurance, then even if you're not denied it, manage to avail a policy, then how do you access its various features, the claim process, everything, the accessibility, or the internet banking or the mobile banking accessibility, or the wallet's accessibility. That is the second subset of problems.
Right. So the first is, what was the first one? Sorry, I've forgotten what you said as the first.
First one was in relation to availability of these services to persons with disabilities, where people with disabilities are discriminated on the ground.
Got it. So first is now grant of insurance and banking facilities, and second is if it is granted, then the practical challenges that you face in accessing it. When the context of insurance, it will be higher premiums, the inaccessibility of the apps that are to be used, difficulty in processing checks, issues around being able to make bank transfers online because the apps that the banks run are inaccessible, websites are inaccessible, captchas. Yes, Turab.
Yeah. Cards also is what Turab saying.
Yeah, debit cards also, like the grids are not
debit cards
are not able to access them. And also the card number, and then it's also
essentially the card machine being touch screen.
Yeah,
right. Card machine,
ATM card, and also the payment machine. Payment point of sale devices, they are touch screen.
Yeah. So some other issues that I'm seeing being added to the mix. One is ATM devices being inaccessible. Second is the content of different cards that banks issue are inaccessible. Your card number, CVV, expiry date. Third is point of sale devices which are used for making payments are inaccessible. And then one other issue is of course with respect to payment apps also, like Paytm, PhonePe, the unique payment interface platforms that have become ubiquitous, especially post-COVID, are also in large part inaccessible. Very well. So now and then finally let's talk about accessibility, some of which we have already covered. But would you like to talk a little bit about accessibility related challenges that the disabled face? And I know that many of us are aware of this and this will be very basic, but it's just helpful to contextualize the issues before talking about the law, which is why we are doing this. Sorry, Turab.
So I think accessibility would be of two types. One is physical and digital. So physical accessibility is that many buildings, like government buildings, like courts, and also other offices or any like say recreational centers, anything you say, they are not very accessible for persons with disabilities. Like they may not have ramps, or they may not have the elevators, may not have like the braille labels. And second is the digital accessibility. I think it comes to apps. There are various apps that we use for everything now, from ordering food and groceries to even meeting someone. Most of them are not designed in keeping in mind the needs of persons with disability.
That's right.
Just adding to this entire gamut of physical and digital, there are other areas of accessibility that you need to look at. For example, packaging standards. If you have a goods being packed in a certain manner, how do you obtain information about their expiry, etc.? Or if you look at healthcare services, there are so many other aspects of services which are also kind of around accessibility.
Yeah. So one way to look at accessibility is in the three verticals that people typically categorize it in, which is physical, informational, and transport, right? Which is what the RPWD also talk about Rule 15. The other one is in terms of sector-specific accessibility, as Amar says, healthcare has its own needs, education, employment we've already covered, banking and insurance, and so on. So these are not exclusive categories. They overlap, and there's a significant crossover because whatever is covered in the second also inevitably comes within those three brackets in the first: physical, information, and very well. So now we have a fairly good understanding of the issues. Now let's move on to talking about solutions. What I propose to do here is a couple of things, right? First, let's talk a little bit about what the law guarantees to us as disabled people, and then second, like how do we actually avail those rights? So first, Amar, let's talk about employment, which was you laid out the problems in employment. What answer does the law give us in this regard?
Sure. So from an employment perspective, again, it's a mix of what I'm going to talk about. So first thing, the law allows that no person should be discriminated on the grounds of disability. That's a non-discrimination provision.
Section 3, one of the acts.
That is section 3. Yeah, correct. The other provision within the same section is that every person with disability is also entitled to reasonable accommodations.
From the appropriate
government. From the appropriate government.
Yes.
The reasonable accommodation as a definition, if you look at it, it's quite broad and it essentially means that depending on each individual case, what is the kind of accommodation that a specific person with disability may require. For example, a blind person may require auditory output of something or accessible formats to consume a reading material, right? Whereas a speech and hearing impaired person might require transcription or captioning.
Right.
So that is another thing. The third thing that the law talks about in terms of employment is equal opportunity policy. So every employer is required to frame equal opportunity policy and also requires
even the private sector?
Both. The government as well as private.
Right.
That's an obligation, and all the obligations that I've spoken so far are across government and private both. Because even as per the rules, the reasonable accommodations are also required to be provided by the private employers as well.
Not just that, but even the cost of bearing the reasonable accommodation has to be borne by the employer as well.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So again, going back to equal opportunity policy. Now this is not just a document which says that we will provide you opportunities in terms of all the employment opportunities that we have as an employer. It's also to say that not just opportunity of being recruited, but also what are the facilities that you are entitled to, what kind of roles that people with disability can perform, what kind of aids and assistive technologies can then be provided. So that's an equal opportunity related aspect. Then there are also requirements under the law that establishments are required to file, both government and private are required to file returns with the relevant state or chief commissioner, depending on where their registered office or a principal base of business is. But
And
more substantively,
reservation also is an important
exactly.
in the government sector. Yes.
Yeah. Within the government sector, as Rahul mentioned, there is a provision of 5% reservation, and there is a provision of promotion reservation as well. So that's something that the law provides as far as employment. And one last thing that's important, which just comes out of the rules, is that every employer, be it government or private, is required to appoint a liaison officer within its organization, which looks after the disability-related issues or complaints or what needs to be done to make the workplaces more accessible for us.
Right. Thank you, Amar. Turab, do you want to add anything to this?
No, I mean, mostly the sections are covered, but apart from that also, like the Constitution also has a guarantee of right to perform one's business, profession, and also I think that also could be, if the cases
freedom of trade, essentially.
Freedom of trade, business, and
yeah. So in the context of vertical, with respect to the state, that is definitely a powerful guarantee. Right. Now, banking and insurance. Amar.
Well, again, Rahul, if you look at, as I said, banking and insurance is a subset of public facilities and services. So the law has an obligation on all service providers, be it government or private, with regard to making public buildings, which is your infrastructure accessibility, public facilities and services, which is your kind of digitalized, if I may classify it at there, along with other aspects of the relevant sector as we spoke. And the third is, the transport. So all of this has to be made accessible within well-defined timelines. So for instance, around digital accessibility, the timeline was June 14, 2019, and there are standards. Initially, it was Government of India, that the guidelines for Indian government websites that were the standards for digital accessibility. Now, Bureau of Indian Standards has come out with the latest standards on making ICT products, which is information communication technology products, accessible. That's the latest standard that people need to comply with, and it's an obligation of the service providers. And banking and insurance, as I said, it's a sectoral accessibility standards that the relevant domain regulators or the ministries need to come up with.
Right. Turab, do you want to add anything?
Then I would also add that banks, there are RBI circulars also can say that no person can be denied banking facilities. So those circulars, and also IRT and also issued circulars about health insurance and
Non-discrimination and insurance.
Non-discrimination insurance. So those also can be.
Yeah, and also one final thing is that there is an RBI circular from 2014 which says that all new ATM facilities run by any bank have to have talking facility, have to be disabled friendly, they have to be voice enabled. And then finally, with respect to accessibility, does anyone want to talk about anything that we've not yet covered in the realm of accessibility that the law guarantees?
Yeah, so one of you could speak about the physical accessibility, like they have to obtain a certificate. Any employer.
Section 44 of the Act talks about that, which where it says that no new building can be constructed in terms of the occupation certificate for any new building cannot be obtained until such time as it complies with physical accessibility norms for persons with disabilities.
I think one of the most important factors to keep in mind is that the responsibility to ensure compliance with accessibility standards has been given to respective ministries. And how can they implement this, whether it's either their own domain regulators or otherwise, that is upon the discretion of the ministry. But if, let's say, we face problem with regard to banking, then we need to kind of reach out to Ministry of Finance to say that this is the problem that people are facing in the banking industry, and RBI and MOF need to work together to make sure that services are provided.
Right. Anything else with respect to digital accessibility which you would like to add, Amar, and then Turab?
No, I think it's covered under 15. So section 46 says that all all entities, public or private, they have to make their apps accessible. As Amar mentioned, by June 14, 2019, as per the standards which were included on Section 40. So, as per that, Code 15 provides for standards, and there was a wrong assumption in many service providers that only government has to only comply with these accessibility norms, but that is not the case. Private sector service providers also have to comply with that, because now the new ICT standards have come up, and also there is a judgment in the case of technology which by the CCPD, Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities, which affirms this fact.
Right. Then let's move on to the third part in terms of what people can do to actually solve some of these problems. And the first thing, we'll spend about 5 minutes on this. First is, can Amar, you tell us what the relevant grievance redressal mechanism under the RPWD Act is?
Sure, indeed. So the law provides for kind of three mechanisms. One is the state commissioners. Second is the chief commissioner, which is a higher authority than the state commissioner, which is the nodal authority. And third is special courts. So let's look at it that way. So the state commissioners and chief commissioner of persons with disabilities are empowered to look at overall violations of the Act, or the rules, or any programs or policies that are made by the Department of Disability Affairs or otherwise. So if there is a problem, say you are residing in Karnataka, so you can very well approach your own state commissioner. The other way to look at it is also if let's say the company that you want to file a complaint against or entity is based out of other state, then you will have to approach that relevant state because the jurisdiction would lie with them. And if it's an India level problem or a nationwide problem, then you need to reach out to Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities. Now, there are certain provisions which are criminal offences under the Act. For example, publicly insulting a person with disability or committing violence against persons with disabilities. So that law also has special courts that are notified across states. Each state has notified their courts to be called as special courts. That is where you as an aggrieved person can seek remedy.
Right. So tell me this, I am a blind person. I am in my workplace. They have asked me to fill in my timesheet or to make certain entries in apps using an internal app that they have, and that app is not accessible. What can I do about it?
So when you about that, sorry.
No, I just think that first thing is important, as persons with disabilities, we often feel that the inaccessibility or denial of services is because of modified intention, that they are not interested in, providing me this service. But often we forget that it is a lack of sensitization, lack of awareness. So it is important for us to make our employers aware of it, for you to make your employer aware that this is the challenge which I face. And and provide guidance on how they can resolve it. Maybe get in touch with some accessibility expert and try to resolve it there only. And then if that doesn't work out, then I think Amar or one of you can explain the litigation and how.
No, I think before even going to litigation, I'd just like to make a point that this falls very much should be a part of equal opportunity policy and reasonable accommodation, because in order to kind of realize the goal of equal opportunity policy, it's important to state the obligation of employers to provide reasonable accommodation, which also means that all the internal tools that they're using have to be made accessible. So if it is a third-party procurement, then making sure that the employer has in the procurement contract mentioned about the fact that whatever they are procuring has to be accessible. Or if it is your own internal thing, then employer needs to be sensitized about equal opportunity obligations and reasonable accommodation obligations, and using that rule, asking them to make it accessible.
Right. Okay. So that's with respect to employment. So let's say that even that doesn't work, right? So if they aren't making an equal opportunity policy, we've tried to sensitize them and inform them of their obligation, but they refuse to change, and they keep saying, oh, it's a third party plan, we can't do anything about it. Then am I rendered remediless in that situation?
Not really, Rahul, because if we look at the Act and the rules, as I said, there are state commissioners and chief commissioner for persons with disabilities, which is the nodal authority to monitor compliance of the Act. So this was a classic case of non-implementation of provisions of the Act. Therefore, as an aggrieved party, you can file a complaint with the relevant state commissioner or the chief commissioner for persons with disabilities, depending on where the registered office of your employer is or the principal place of business is. In order to need for you to file a complaint, you will just require your disability certificate, as well as there are certain particulars that are part of Rule 38 of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities rules, which are like name, addresses of both the parties, contact details, and certain other details that you need to provide in order to file a complaint. And then you can kind of file a complaint either by physical post or through email, and such other mediums that are prescribed by the relevant commissioners. You can file a complaint, and then the relevant commissioner can issue a notice, and then the entire proceedings can.
Very well. So two questions for that, and these apply in the context of banking and insurance and accessibility also. Number one, how much time will it take for me to obtain a just resolution to my issue, reasonably speaking, in such an office of the state or chief commissioner? And number two, surely if I am working for an employer, and if I take them to court, that will just create so much bad blood between me and them that I just can't continue working for them. So even if on paper they are practically, what can I do? Because taking them to court may not be an option, realistically speaking.
Well, as far as your first question is concerned, Rahul, if you look at timeline, I would say anywhere between 3 to 6 months is a reasonable time. You can assume that problems is it's likely to be resolved by relevant office. Although I must say right now, state commissioners are slightly not functioning so well, like the chief commissioner's office. So there could be a delay caused due to that. But barring that, it's reasonable to assume 3 to 6 months.
Okay. And the second question is about the relationship.
Relationship, I think it's a tricky question. So if it's a third party vendor where your employer has procured, let's say, a transport solution from a third party vendor, you can possibly get it to you can use the same remedy through the other people who may not be part of your organization, but like an organization like Mission Accessibility, if it relates to digital accessibility, for example, and we are happy to listen. So some of those solutions is what we'll need to resort to.
Okay. And one final question then, can both of you, and then I'll also chip in, guide our audience as to what services for disability advocacy exist out there? Like, who should I reach out to if I am an aggrieved disabled person because the HDFC bank is inaccessible or SBI bank is inaccessible, app is inaccessible, because I am not being given access to insurance, because my employer is not behaving properly with me? Like, who can take up this cause for me?
So there are many disability-specific NGOs, Rahul, which are active into advocacy space. Some of them are also active into information spreading space. For example, IWAY is an informational-based organization. National Federation of the Blind is a purely advocacy organization. AICD, All India Confederation for the Blind. So those are the kind of organizations. And as far as digital inaccessibility is concerned, Rahul, me, Turab, we all are working together under an initiative called Mission Accessibility, which is registered as a Section 8 company. We take up the digital inaccessibility issues with the relevant commissioner or the chief commissioner. Mostly we have done it through Chief Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities. So if it relates to digital inaccessibility, we are happy to kind of support you. You can always email us your grievances on missionaccessibility@gmail.com. That's MISS.
Yes, go ahead.
MISSIONACCESSIEILITY, Mission Accessibility without spaces, all small, @gmail.com. So you can always reach out to us.
Right. And Turab, any other initiatives that you are aware of that people can draw on?
So I think the basis of this convention is Access India, and where we have learned all these things and got corrected also. So I think Access India still continues to be a very valuable resource where people can post their queries and they can be participating on the list. And that way that they can be directed to any of these organizations or other organizations or individuals, who can help them.
Right. So two final things I would add. Number one, mission accessibility, as Amar mentioned, is the initiative that we run for this purpose. But in our individual capacities, we also take up other forms of advocacy. So I take up strategic litigation through the Vidi Center for Legal Policy on Disability Rights. For example, one cause we're going to take up, hoping to take up is judiciary. So basically, discriminatory rules that exist against persons with disabilities in the judiciary, against their appointment. Issues of that nature, which have broader implications for the disabled community at large, not a specific individual, those can be taken up through that. And then I also take up individual cases through my law firm where I currently work, which is IRA Law, in terms of individual instances. So for example, we have a case going on in the Patna High Court with respect to a person who has an upper limb missing, being denied MBBS admission. Someone not being given admission into the civil services because of mistakes committed by the medical board constituted by AIM. So cases of that nature can be taken up through those rules. The point being that there exist enough avenues for redressal, but you need to come forward and actually voice your grievance. So in terms of practical ways forward, and this is what I will end with. Number one, whenever you have an issue, don't suffer in silence. Point it out on the Access India mailing list. Ask for others to pitch in and give you solutions. Try resolving the issue to the extent you can through dialogue and consultation with your employer or whoever it is. If that does not work, feel free to reach out to us or to any other organization that work in this space and hold them to account. I mean, they must provide you high quality advocacy services. Just because they are doing it for free or on a low cost basis does not mean that they can choose to deprioritize your work. Because this is something I see in the disability rights sector. A lot of lawyers just don't prioritize these issues because they don't get paid for it. So you deserve better and make sure that you demand that from whoever you are consulting, whoever you have as a lawyer. Very well. So we will end with this because we will run out of time horribly as well. But we are happy to take any questions and we will be around virtually to talk to people.
Yes,
so thanks very much again for the opportunity and I hope you have a good convention.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Round of applause for our speakers who are not here. Speaker, just hands up on Rajesh. Come, will you take it? Come. Here's the mic and
yeah. Thank you, Kanjanji, and distance. Yeah. So, good morning, everybody. And it's really my pleasure and privilege to be with you all. Thank you, Jain sir. And whatever we can discuss, Rahul and Amar, and they have discussed at length. Actually, it was a recording, right? Yeah, it's a wonderful recording. It was as if it was live, quality of voice and all that. So I am live before you. I am with you. We are with each other. So आप लोग कुछ भी पूछना चाहें, बात करना चाहें, बात कर सकते हैं. अब हम तो खैर पुराने लोग हो गए भाई. राहुल, अमर, ये सब these are RPWD Generation, जिसको बोलते हैं. बिल्कुल. The consciousness is different. The approach is really different. हम जानते हैं, कंचन जी जानती हैं कि कहाँ से शुरू किया, कैसे एक चीज के लिए लड़ाइयाँ की, और आज जहाँ हम लोग हैं, it's really very बहुत अच्छा मकाम जिसको हम कहेंगे हिंदी में. It's a very good place where we are. We can rightfully say that all these things should be made available to us. All of it's our right to have the accessible things. It's our right to have the reservations. यहाँ से बात शुरू हुई कि first of all the law was not there, कानून ही नहीं था. फिर कानून आया तो उसका implementation बहुत लेट, धीरे हुआ. अपने जावेद अबीदी साहब, जिनके लिए हम श्रद्धा से we bow our head before his memory, उन्होंने implementation की लड़ाई लड़ी और फिर अमल बजावनी जिसको बोलते हैं मराठी में, वो अमल बजावनी हुई कायदे की, धीरे हुई. फिर नया कानून आया 2016 में RPWD एक्ट, और आज उसको भी 7 साल हो रहे हैं. तो 7 साल आपको मालूम है, जब कोई गुम हो जाता है तो 7 साल तक वेट करते हैं, अदरवाइज उसको डेड मान लेते हैं. तो ये कानून भी अगर इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं होता तो 7 साल बाद हम उसको मान लेते कि गया. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है, फॉर्चुनेटली अच्छा खासा इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो रहा है. और होना बाकी भी है बहुत सारा इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, बट इट्स अप टू ऑल ऑफ अस टू बी विजिलेंट. दे से विजिलेंस इज द प्राइस ऑफ लिबर्टी, एंड हम लोग बिल्कुल उसके लिए तैयार हैं, सुसज्ज हैं. और आप लोगों ने इतनी सारी जानकारी सुनी, और अभी आप कुछ बात पर चर्चा करना चाहें.
So any questions? We have Rahul also on the phone. We have Rajesh here, and don't forget.
Hello. Thank you very much for the detailed discussion on banking and insurance facilities. I wish to add one more difficulty that I have suffered. I am a Parkinson patient, and bank is unsympathetic for me. Even I have submitted my physical disability certificate in my bank, but they are making my check dishonest, stating that the signature does not tally. Being a heavy tremor, how can I sign on my checkbook? And always they make my checkbook check as a dishonest, and I have been penalized for more high amount. So I wish here as a background, if you could raise this point and be sympathetic, tell them that be sympathetic with the account holders who are suffering from physical disability. They should have, what happened, one person comes, but after 3 years of after his retirement or transfer, one more person, again you have to give everything. But can't it be a standing instructions for account bankers that account holder is disabled and they should ignore us or excuse us for the any signature. They can call us, have you withdrawing amount, but their statement is on that, and it amounts very loss for us. Each and every time they charge us 250 rupees. So I have
रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया. तो मैं आपको एक प्रैक्टिकल आंसर दूंगा इसका. लीगली यू आर राइट, लीगली कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. यू आर राइट दैट दे शुड कंसीडर, दे शुड हैव सच प्रोसीजर्स वेयर बाय सच चेक्स आर नॉट डिसऑनर्ड एंड अ पर्सन इज डिसेबल्ड, इट शुड बी ड्यूली नोटेड ऑन देम. लेकिन जैसा आपने कहा, आफ्टर 3 years द पीपल चेंज एंड एवरीथिंग गोस फॉर अ टॉस. So practically speaking, find alternatives. Don't use checks. Online transfer. अभी वैसे भी checks are declining. They are not very much in use, right? So please find alternatives. Phone banking है, बहुत सारे alternatives हैं. Online है, NEFT, RTGS, जो भी है, IMPS है. तो check का use आप कम करो. जहाँ तक हो सके check. वैसे भी check is a very fraud prone area. I should not say, being a central banker on record, I should not say this, but check is a fraud prone area. So instead of checks, please use online transfers and other modes of transfer.
Yes, मेरा नाम मनोज यादव है.
Just one second, I'd like to add that I use ECS for my telephone bills, my club bills, and my electricity.
Hello.
I have electricity. All these 3 sets of bills are on ECS. Okay?
That 2 things, can I be heard?
Yes, Rahul, very clear.
Yes, so 2 things. Number 1, I echo what Rajesh sir said about, declining check use. But I think the bigger point is that if someone does use a check in a given situation, so number 1 is that there is RBI guidance on this, as best I know, which says that you can't reject someone because their signature. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes. So number 1 is that there is RBI guidance on this, from what I know, that you can't decline to issue someone a check because of the signature issue. So that can be pressed into service. And number 2, I mean, if in a particular case this happens, you write to them, a letter. What bank is this? Bank of Baroda. So I would say you write to them, explain the fact of your disability, and that is the reason why the signature mismatch issue is happening. And if they still don't respond appropriately, then you email it to me, and we'll take it up legally. I mean, we'll send them a notice about it. If they don't respond to letter, then we can ventilate the grievance through that route, and we can go to the CCPD or to the High Court about this also.
Rajesh, Rahul, this is Harish Kotian.
Yes.
Another thing to add is that some banks like Union Bank, Kotak Bank, they have adopted a system as a positive pay. So through your app, you can confirm that it is your check and the bank should clear it. So one can also use mechanisms like that for positive pay.
Right. Absolutely.
Next question.
मेरा नाम मनोज यादव है. मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि अभी जैसे रीजनेबल एकोमोडेशन की बात है, तो मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि पूरे देश में उत्तर प्रदेश एकमात्र ऐसा राज्य है जहाँ पर 50 लाख तक की प्रॉपर्टी पे जीरो स्टैम्प ड्यूटी है, और उससे ऊपर के खाली प्लॉट पे जब खाली भूखंड लेते हैं तो उसमें 20% की छूट है, और कोई भवन खरीदते हैं तो उस पर 30% की छूट है। और ये प्रावधान उत्तर प्रदेश के अलावा किसी भी राज्य में नहीं है। तो ये मेरा एक सुझाव रहेगा कि एक्सेस इंडिया के माध्यम से हम हर राज्य के सरकार को एक ज्ञापन भेजें, मेमोरेंडम भेजें कि स्टैम्प ड्यूटी में कुछ डिस्काउंट दिया जाए, क्योंकि आप देख रहे होंगे कि मुंबई, बेंगलोर, हैदराबाद और तमाम शहरों में प्रॉपर्टी के रेट कितने महंगे हो गए हैं। दूसरी बात ये कि RPWD एक्ट में ही प्राइवेट सेक्टर्स में 5% आरक्षण की बात कही गई है दिव्यांगजनों के लिए, लेकिन हमारे बहुत से साथियों ने ये अलग बात है कि अपनी काबिलियत के दम पर निजी क्षेत्रों में अपना स्थान बनाया है, लेकिन वो जो RPWD एक्ट में बात करी गई है उसको प्राइवेट सेक्टरों के लिए ज़मीनी स्तर पर लागू करने के लिए क्या कुछ किया जा सकता है, और वो कौन से कारगर उपाय हो सकते हैं। धन्यवाद।
One second, Rahul, 1 second. Any other questions on the floor? Anybody else?
Hi, this is Mike. Rahul, let me know if this is irrelevant, but do you think that there is any, there should be a team in place for auditing, you sometimes need last minute user feedback for certain apps or certain websites and so do you think there should be a team in place in case we don't get feedback from users in time, so it's go to people?
So that's Mayank Sharma, is it?
Yes, that's it.
Yes, thanks Mayank. So I think it has to be two things, right? One is user feedback, which is extremely important, and there can be no substitute for that, because at the end of the day, technical sort of checks and auditing can only get us so far, but the actual user with a disability who's using it, their feedback must always be front and center in whatever advocacy we do. The second is yes. So, for example, to answer your question, admission accessibility, we are now, figuring out an arrangement with Mr. Srinivasu Chakravartula. I don't know if Srinivasu is in the convention there, but we have been having conversations with him such that we can get because see, what we are finding is that in the litigation that we do, respondents that after the point they themselves say that it is compliant now, or they try, they want to opt for the easy way out, so they are never open to actually getting the platform audited end to end to figure out what the accessibility issues are, and the CCPD also doesn't push them in that direction. The CCPD's approach is also of a reactive nature that okay fine, you have told us these 5 issues, please resolve these 5 issues. So therefore what we are trying to do at our own end is to build capacity to have someone who can audit a certain number of apps for us each month, so that we can then submit that report in the litigation proceeding or also in the negotiations that we do, and thereby have a more evidence-based discussion that okay look, out of 50 issues, these 5 are critical, and the other 5 you can address in a phase-wise manner, that kind of thing.
Rajesh, would you like to say something also on this? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Bayan? Thank you, Bayan. Thank you, Rahul. There are some more questions. Mike is with you.
Just one final thing I'd like to share if there is no further question.
No, there are. Just hold a minute.
All right.
So can we have the act include an audit, say for once in 2 years?
Identify yourself,
Accessibility audit.
please. Just give your name.
My name is Jitendra.
Jitendra, okay. He's asking if you can add in the act.
Yes, I heard the question. So Jitendra, this is something that we are trying to propose through a regulatory reform. So basically, under the RPWD rules, there is a rule 15. A few months ago, I had submitted a proposal to the Department of Empowerment for Persons with Disabilities to say that there should be accessibility audit committee in every ministry, and they should get all the apps and websites under their purview audited, number one, within a period of 1 year from the date on which the rule comes into operation. And thereafter, whenever there is a substantial update to the platform, because I mean, at least that I think would be a good starting point. Because if we say once in 2 years, that I'm not sure how comfortable they would be with that. But we had certain language from the relevant, like Amar had put that in from some accessibility guidelines. And whenever there's a substantial update or 2-3 other trigger points like this, for example, now it's not an app, but take the example of the income tax portal, right? So after it was handed over from TCS to Infosys, there was a major upgrade because whenever there is a change in vendor, whenever there is a substantial update, in those circumstances it must undergo an audit. Now that proposal we discussed with the secretary last week also in the Disability Affairs Department, Amar and I. Let's see what comes out of it, but that's the idea right now.
Apart from all the accessibility issues, there's still the education problem. We still have education issues. We have issues in employment. Will Rajesh like to throw a little light on what is still pending for us? Only the pending. Don't tell us all our successes. We are very proud of our successes. Okay, there's lots and we can complain now. And don't complain to me offline now. Okay, now.
As you said, lot is pending, definitely miles to go. So education and employment, particularly these two are very big areas where a lot is pending from both the sides, from our side as well as from the legal side, governmental side. Firstly, we see that, frankly speaking, our level of education, even the training in assistive technology, knowledge of assistive technology is not up to the mark. So we should strive for that. हम लोगों ने अपनी मेहनत करनी चाहिए. And then we should ask even our institutions, employers to impart us training. That is required. उसके बिना कुछ नहीं होगा. हमको सब inaccessible ही लगेगा. जो accessible है उसको भी हम अच्छे से नहीं कर पाएंगे. So that is a major area where we have to put in our thrust to improve the level of our preparedness, our education, our training in assistive technology. Then of course in education the legal issues of 5% reservation in the higher educational institutions, कौन से courses कर सकते हैं, कौन से नहीं कर सकते, कई बार डिबार कर दिया जाता है कुछ courses से, तो ये सब legal battles चलती रहती हैं, चलनी भी चाहिए, and gradually it will improve. On the employment front भी वही बात आ जाती है, training in assistive technology. फिर उसके बाद जो एम्प्लॉयमेंट इश्यूज है, पहले बैकलॉग का बहुत बड़ा इशू अभी तक पेंडिंग है. बैंकिंग में हमारा जो ये एनजीओ है विबीवा, विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड बैंक एम्प्लॉइज वेलफेयर एसोसिएशन, हम लोग स्टडीज करते हैं तो आज भी 1% जो विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड होना चाहिए बैंकिंग में वो आज भी नहीं है. एंड वेयरएज द बैंकिंग इज द बिगेस्ट सेक्टर गिविंग द एम्प्लॉयमेंट, रिजर्वेशन भी होता है, सब होता है, फिर भी बैकलॉग है, अब तक बैकलॉग है. दूसरा इशू है लो विजन और ब्लाइंड का. बहुत सारे पोस्ट आइडेंटिफाइड होते हैं ब्लाइंड के लिए, फिर भी एडवर्टाइज होते हैं केवल लो विजन के लिए, तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा इशू बन जाता है, बैकलॉग का इशू बन जाता है. एंट्री लेवल के बाद जो एम्प्लॉयमेंट इशू है, रिजर्वेशन इन प्रमोशन की बहुत बड़ी लड़ाई लड़ी गई है और पार्टली जीती गई है. रिजर्वेशन इज नाउ देयर टू द एंट्री लेवल टू द क्लास 1 जॉब्स. सो उसको भी एक्चुअली शुड बी बिगर देन दैट. एक्चुअली ऑल ऑफ अस फील दैट बाद में भी होना चाहिए, लेकिन अभी एंट्री लेवल ऑफ क्लास 1 वहां तक जो रिजर्वेशन है उसको भी इंप्लीमेंट कराना बाकी है. सब आ गया, जजमेंट आ गया, डीओपीटी के डायरेक्शंस आ गए, लेकिन अभी भी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन इज नॉट हैपनिंग. सो वी हैव टू प्रेस फॉर दैट इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ रिजर्वेशन इन प्रमोशन. फिर रीजनेबल अकोमोडेशन इज ऑलवेज एन ऑनगोइंग अफेयर. एक्सेसिबिलिटी इज ऑलवेज एन ऑनगोइंग अफेयर, जिसकी अभी इतनी सारी बात हुई. तो वो गवर्नमेंट सेक्टर में एम्प्लॉयमेंट में भी बात है, प्राइवेट में तो है ही है. प्राइवेट प्लेयर सीधा बोलते हैं इट्स नॉट ऑब्लिगेटरी अपॉन अस, बट इट इज ऑब्लिगेटरी अपॉन देम नेचुरली. But even the government sector also is not readily complying with the accessibility norms. Even आप UDID का साइट, मुझे नहीं मालूम आज एक्सेसिबल है, लेकिन अब तक तो नहीं था एक्सेसिबल. तो मैं तो सिंपल कहता हूँ कि जब UDID का साइट ही मेरे लिए एक्सेसिबल नहीं है तो मैं UDID कैसे ऑब्टेन करूँ भाई? How should I go about it? तो ये बहुत सारी ऐसे और भी ग्रीवेंस रिड्रेसल ऑफिसर होना चाहिए, कमिटी होनी चाहिए. ये सारे प्रोविजंस हम लोगों ने एक थीमेटिक स्टडी की थी 2016 में बैंक्स में कि सारे प्रोविजंस कहां तक इंप्लीमेंट हुए हैं. हमने सर्वे किया, ऑल इंडिया सर्वे किया और उसके बाद एक रिपोर्ट सबमिट की बेस्ड ऑन द ऑल इंडिया सर्वे, आरटीआई एंड द लीगल प्रोविजंस विबीवा की तरफ से गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को रिपोर्ट सबमिट की. दूसरा मैं आपको एक ताजा न्यूज दे दूं कि ये प्रमोशन पॉलिसी इनडायरेक्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन जिसको बोलते हैं, स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ने अभी क्या किया आप लोग जानते हैं क्या किया. व्हाट द एसबीआई डिड, They said promotion will be given from scale 3 to 4, 4 to 5 only when you have been the branch manager or the credit officer, otherwise not. Mandatorily they included this thing. We fought the battle against that. CCPD का बहुत ही favorable judgment last month आया है, and they have clearly said that SBI cannot do like that. No bank can do like that. The things which are not possible to do non-visually, you cannot include them as mandatory assignments for promotion. ये reservation and promotion की बात नहीं हो रही है, ये promotion की बात हो रही है. Non-discrimination in promotion. Clearly the act says that there shall not be any discrimination on the ground of disability in promotions. But what SBI did? They said we are not discriminating. Simply mandatory assignments लगा दिए. अब कौन टोटली ब्लाइंड पर्सन ब्रांच मैनेजर बन सकता है, मुझे आप बताइए. एक ब्रांच मैनेजर को 89 सर्टिफिकेट्स देने पड़ते हैं पर मंथ. कैन यू गिव द सर्टिफिकेट्स विदाउट वेरीफाइंग द थिंग्स? एंड यू कैनॉट वेरीफाई द थिंग्स नॉन विजुअली. So all these things, it was really difficult to argue that case because simply it is said कि आपको accessibility है, आपको assistive technology है, आप क्यों नहीं कर सकते हो? लेकिन despite assistive technology, certain things are not possible to be done non-visually with the help of technology. So very good judgment we have got last month only.
Okay, any other? Thank you.
So two final things if I might say, Kanchan ma'am.
Yes.
Number one, with respect to employment, one case that I should flag, which I am involved in, is a challenge to the IPS. So the IPS has excluded the disabled wholesale from occupying any non-combat post by virtue of their disability. Any post at all, even if it's an administrative, managerial, non-combat post. So that we have challenged in the Supreme Court on behalf of the National Platform for the Rights of the Disabled, Mr. Arvind Data, senior advocate in leading us. So that matter is still pending in the Supreme Court, and we are hoping to get a favorable judgment in that. That's one. And two, next week I'm going to be filing a writ petition. So the movie Pathaan is coming up on 25th January, which features Shah Rukh Khan, John Abraham, Deepika Padukone and Salman Khan in the Yash film production. And they don't have any plans as in India we never have. When a movie is theatrically released, it never has audio description. And subtitling it does have, but that too not in the same language. So it is what my understanding is on the subtitling space. And OTT also only a small fraction of the content is actually audio described. So therefore, I am filing a writ petition. We have already written to Yashra, giving them a 7-day notice saying that you have to make it audio described. And I have discussed this with Mr. Minocha also. This morning we had a call an hour ago to sort of see how we can practically operationalize it through an app. You know, the Excel Cinema, and there are other vendors also that do this. So that people with disabilities are also not shut out from the movie watching experience, because it is just not about entertainment. You know, people say, why do you take up these first world issues? But it has a whole host of other benefits, you know, educative value in terms of participation in society. So we really want to set a precedent with this judgment and see where it goes from there.
Thank you, Rahul. Arman is with us. Arman? Yes, Arman, tell us about, since we talked about litigation, and I'll introduce you later, but Arman Ali is here from NCPDP, the Executive Director. But I wanted to speak on the gold gym issue. Since we talked about litigation just now, we've gone from accessibility to...
Okay.
So, thank you, Kanchan. Hi, Rahul. I'm Arman Ali, as introduced by Kanchan. I'm the Executive Director of NCPDP. So, back in 2012, I went to join the Gold Jain. Gold Jain is a multinational company with having...
Oh, okay, Gold Jain.
Yeah, right. So they kind of refused my membership over 3 months. They made me do all kind of things. First, they said you have to bring a doctor certificate. I got a certificate, then they told me you get an orthopedic doctor certificate. I got that. Then they said we will speak to the doctor. They spoke to the doctor. Then they said to come and show us that you can actually do the exercise in the gym. I did that. Then they offered me a 1 month conditional membership, charging 12,000 rupees for that 1 month. And they told me that I can only come in the afternoon from 2 to 3 in the afternoon. I said I have to leave my job and come here to your gym. And that's when I went to the court and made the writ petition.
and a set of fundamental rights has to be denied. So I got a favorable order where the gym was asked to pay sum of ₹1 lakh, which I asked them to donate it to the organization. So that was something that's a precedent-setting, I think, case. And yeah, you want to mind?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Rahul.
No, so I wanted to share that I had a similar experience with Fitso 2-3 months ago, which is a swimming pool service, where they flatly refused to let me come in with my aid, saying that we don't have this facility where someone can be accompanied by the aid, even though that person was going to guide me from outside when I was inside the pool. So I wrote a strongly worded legal notice to them, and then after that they refunded my fee for 3 months, they gave me free access. And they, as a goodwill gesture, but I said that is not enough, just because I have the vocabulary and the capacity to fight you, other people with disabilities will simply not go there if they are told that, it's not for you. So you have to have a policy in place. So first they said we'll take it up in due course, it's anyway not our obligation. I said no, it is your obligation. I pointed them to the provisions in the Act on reasonable accommodation, non-discrimination, and I also asked them whether they have a policy for their employees, because Section 21 requires every establishment to have an equal opportunity policy, even private sector. So then they came back to me 2-3 weeks ago saying, we want to do it, what is your quotation? I said, I'm not going to charge anything for this, because there is a complaint that I have filed. I'm happy to help you pro bono. So that's where that discussion is at right now.
Wonderful, Rahul, wonderful, Amar, and Rajesh. And see where the world has gone by asking, by fighting, we have reached so far. Thank you all of you. What is this Nagpur connection? Rahul, Turab, Rajesh, all from Nagpur, and what else is in Nagpur, we all know. So, lovely to have you all here.
Okay.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Is Shadab Hussain here? Shadab? We are not sure. That's a problem.
शुक्रिया। सुनाता हूँ आपको डिसेबिलिटी पर्सपेक्टिव पर ही है, ठीक है? मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है, ये हकीकत क्या निगाहों से बयां होती है, और इश्क को आंख की पुतली से बयां करना क्या, इश्क को हाथ की उंगली से बयां करना क्या, इशारे इशारे होते हैं ना, तो इश्क को आंख की पुतली से बयां करना क्या, इश्क को हाथ की उंगली से बयां करना क्या, यूं तो तौहीन मोहब्बत की यहाँ होती है, हम ये कहते हैं मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है, और सबसे डर डर के छुपके तो खता करते हैं, सबसे डर डर के छुपके तो खता करते हैं, यूं यहाँ रस्म मोहब्बत भी अदा करते हैं, यूं ही तकमील वफा इश्क़ जमा होती है, हम ये कहते हैं मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है। और देखिए बाकी सेंसेस का भी अपना इंपॉर्टेंस है, तो उनकी बात कही गई है कि वो महकते से तसव्वुर की महकती खुशबू, उन अदाओं में वो फूलों की बहकती खुशबू, वो महकते से तसव्वुर की महकती खुशबू, उन अदाओं में वो फूलों की बहकती खुशबू, सबाए बाग़े उल्फत तो वहाँ होती है, हम ये कहते हैं मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है। तो वो सदा इश्क की रंगीनियों में डूबी हुई, सदा कहते हैं आवाज को, आवाज, वो सदा इश्क की रंगीनियों में डूबी हुई, वो मोहब्बत भरा इजहार इसकी खूबी हुई, वो मोहब्बत भरा इजहार इसकी खूबी हुई, ऐसी तासीर निगाहों में कहाँ होती है, हम ये कहते हैं मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है। और वो किन्हीं मरमरी हाथों का छू गुजर जाना, छुअन, टच, सेंस ऑफ टच, वो किन्हीं मरमरी हाथों का छू गुजर जाना, वो किसी जिस्म का थर्राना और सिहर जाना, वो किसी जिस्म का थर्राना और सिहर जाना, ऐसी तासीर निगाहों में कहाँ होती है, हम ये कहते हैं मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है ये लाजिम की रहे राह मोहब्बत में नजर, मैं नजर का कोई दुश्मन नहीं हूँ, अच्छी बात है रहे तो, है ये लाजिम कि रहे राह मोहब्बत में नजर, जो बयां कर दे जज्बात दिलो ज़हनो जिगर, पर सिवा इसके बहार ये न खिजा होती है, हम ये कहते हैं मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है। और गर यही सच है साहिर, मैंने साहिर होशियारपुरी का शेर बताया ना आपको शुरू में, तो गर यही सच है साहिर तो बता मैं हूँ रकीब। रकीब मेरा नाम है, पोएटिक नेम है। और रकीब के माने होते हैं मोहब्बत में राइवल, मोहब्बत में प्रतिद्वंद्वी। जैसे एक आशिक और दो महबूब, तो रकीब हुए दोनों एक दूसरे के। तो गर यही सच है साहिर तो बता मैं हूँ रकीब, क्या मोहब्बत ही नहीं लिखी गई मेरे नसीब। क्या न नाबीनों के, नाबीन मतलब ब्लाइंड, क्या न नाबीनों के न दिल नहीं जान होती है, हम ये कहते हैं मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है। हम ये कहते हैं मोहब्बत की